Right, gas station business insurance. What do you need? How much does it cost? My name is Nate Jones with Wexford Insurance. My company, Wexford, we're a team of over 15 agents and we insure probably over 60 to 70 gas stations nationwide. So we know exactly the coverage that a gas station needs and where the costs usually come in at. Okay, so I'm going to hop into the coverage and tell you the cost, and all of these numbers depend on where you're at in the country. Obviously, some states have a little bit higher insurance rates because of the legal structure of those states. So rates are just a little bit higher. And if you're near the coast or anything like that, it all depends, obviously. So let's just dive into this and I'll give you some numbers. The first coverage you need, no matter what, if you don't own the gas station, you're just leasing it, you're just operating it, you need general liability. General liability is slips and falls, somebody gets hurt, maybe something causes damage to somebody's vehicle. Maybe you have a car wash as part of the gas station. Basically, it covers bodily injury and property damage. Bodily injury is somebody gets hurt, and property damage is if somebody's property gets hurt. Okay, so general liability, that's the bare minimum. Usually for general liability, for a small gas station, we can be under $2,000 for the year. For a larger gas station, that does run up to maybe $5,000, but it can usually be less, but I'm giving you a conservative number here. The next coverage is property insurance. So if you own the gas station, even if you don't own it, I'll tell you about that in a second. If you own the gas station, we need to insure those signs, the canopies, the pumps, the building itself, anything inside of the building, so that inventory, furniture, the build out, if you're leasing it from somebody. So if you don't own the building, we need to insure the inventory, all the snacks, all the aisles, the freezer, all that stuff. We need to ensure that's yours, so that if like you move out, that stuff that you bought. So we need to ensure that. So even if you don't own it, we still need to insure the contents to make sure that if there's a fire, that all that food inventory, all the snacks, all the trinkets are insured. Okay, so that's super important for you to have, because if your business is that property, what you're selling or anything like that. The next thing that you need is pollution site liability. This is coinciding with storage tank liability. If the storage tank that holds the gasoline leaks and causes a pollution damage that runs off into somebody else's property, a neighboring property, let's say it runs down into the stormwater, causes pollutants, anything like that, pollutant site and storage tank liability, it is super important that you make sure you have this coverage, because if not, you could be sitting there being sued for not having pollution liability, and you want the defense there, and you want to be able to pay for the damages with insurance. Okay, so pollution and storage tank liability go side and side there. The next thing is, if you're selling alcohol, you need liquor liability. So depending on your state, city, and county, you might be able to sell alcohol, you might not. But if you're selling alcohol, you need liquor liability. Why? If you accidentally serve a minor, if you accidentally overserve somebody who's visibly drunk and they get in an accident and cause a DUI, people can try to sue you, whether it's frivolous or not, for you supplying that person alcohol, and then they go do something that causes damage to somebody else or something else, like someone's car or anything like that. So you can become liable. I say this a lot. Insurance is a retainer for the best lawyers in the world. So if you're selling alcohol, you need liquor liability. Usually we can add that onto a policy pretty easily to the general liability. And depending on the state, it's not too expensive either. Again, if you want a quote on any of these coverages, the pinned comment below, you can follow the link and request a quote, and we can have a call with you and go through your unique situation. There's also a phone number down there. You can call us, or you can fill out the link. You fill out the link, it goes to one of our agents, and they're going to text you and email you. They're not going to call you like crazy. That's not what we do. So just, it's down there. The next coverage you might need is workers' compensation. So if you have employees, they slip and fall, they get hurt, maybe they get robbed and get hit, it doesn't matter. That is your responsibility. If you tell somebody when to be there, how long to work, and you provide them tools to do their job, usually by the state, you are responsible for workers' compensation. So workers' compensation is super important, because if an employee gets hurt on the job, you are responsible to cover their workplace injuries and potential loss of wages. Okay, so that's that policy, and that's what it covers. Usually for a convenience store with gas station, usually it's under $2,000 for the year, $3,000 sometimes if you have a lot of employees, a lot of payroll, and it's a big gas station. Okay, Next coverage you might need if you have vehicles, commercial auto. We don't have a lot of gas stations that have commercial auto insurance, but if you have a business vehicle that you're using to run errands and pick up stuff, we can always add that coverage on there as well. Another coverage to add to the property is crime and employee dishonesty. That means an employee is stealing the cash out of the cash register. They're stealing stuff on site. Maybe they steal a bunch of stuff from you. So usually we have a sub limit on that, very low, but it is something that you're exposed to if you're having employees deal with cash. The next thing is cyber liability. This is like, some people buy this, some people don't. If you have a POS system, you're collecting data, maybe you're running on an operating system that's proprietary or something like that, you might want cyber liability. I'm not going to highlight that too much. And then the next coverage is umbrella liability. If you have a big gas station or you're in a state that merits having higher limits, the umbrella liability usually sits over the general liability, and sometimes it can sit over the auto and workers' compensation. Why? Well, general liability is usually $1 million. So if somebody slips and falls and they have a $2 million injury. That's a little high, but let's say they do. A $2 million injury, the general liability would only pay $1 million, and then they would say, hey, you're on the hook for the next $1 million. Well, if you have an umbrella, the umbrella will pick up and continue on up to $2 million or $3 million or $4 million or however high you want to go. So those are the main coverages. And again, we help gas stations in 48 states outside of Alaska and Hawaii. If you look at the first pinned comment, you'll see a hyperlink to request a quote, or you can call us at 317-942-0549. It's right there at the bottom. And again, we help in all states except for Hawaii and Alaska. And we insure a ton of gas stations. We have the markets. A lot of agencies don't have the markets. And if you don't have the markets, really you're not going to get the best price, because you need to make sure that everybody is providing a quote for your gas station. Also, we try to quote you out every year or every other year just to make sure we're being honest with the pricing. So as always, like and subscribe and reach out to us today for a gas station insurance quote.